Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back to a new video on Fuzzy Garms. I hope you're all doing really well. Apologies for the lack of content recently, but it has been absolutely hectic with lockdown ending and us getting back into the swing of things again. But it's been good. It's been very good. This video is going to talk about what we've been doing and specifically the new sort of kid in the block in terms of Vinted. We want to talk about Vinted compared to Depop. We use both. Go into detail about that. If you want to check out our stores on Depop or on Vinted, the links are down below. So make sure you head over there, and if you mention the channel, you get 10% off of any of your orders. Don't forget, you're always welcome to haggle too. But we came back from lockdown, and obviously you guys know before lockdown we were doing brilliantly well. Lockdown happened, it sort of stagnated everything a little bit, and then post lockdown it's boomed. A lot of people are back out again, so they're buying clothes again. People are going away on holidays again, so that sort of increased sales. But we were specifically using Depop. Depop's a great place to sell vintage / second-hand clothes. It's a great place. But now I start to see these ads for Vinted, and a few people I know started selling on Vinted and buying from Vinted. And so we've started to utilise both of them. Now, this is the important thing to note. With a video like this, or with anything discussion like this, it isn't either or. My advice to you, if you're buying, selling, whatever, is utilise every option you've got. Depop, Vinted, eBay, even Facebook Marketplace and places like that. Some people sell some awesome stuff there. Go into Facebook groups. There's an awesome Facebook group called Wavy Garms. It's probably the biggest of its kind. Genuinely a great group full of very knowledgeable people. Sometimes I go in there for advice and help. Other times I sell or buy from there. They're the best places to be to gain your knowledge. But I want to talk about Vinted. Basically, this is not an ad or anything like that. This is just completely my thoughts and our thoughts on it. Vinted is a new app and a new website for selling and buying second-hand clothing. And genuinely, it is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Depop is the market leader in all of this stuff. It's the first one to come out. It's the one that does best. But what I find with Depop and what we find with Depop is the higher end stuff tend to sell better on Depop. So Depop is full of resellers. It's for the people specifically looking for what they're looking for. And so you tend to do better with selling those sort of things. The higher end stuff, I'll give you examples in a second of it, over on Depop. That's where you make sort of your big sales. Vinted, in my opinion, is brilliant for those car boot pickups we get. So we'll go to a car boot sale and we'll pick up a Nike t-shirt for 50p, £1. We'll put it on Vinted, sell it for £8, £10, £12, £15, and they sell quite consistently throughout the time. And so we tend to use Vinted to sell our lower end stuff, which is still nice stuff, but our lower end stuff, and then use that money to reinvest in higher end stuff that we then list on Depop. And it's twofold in the way that we do that. Vinted, and the best thing about Vinted is there are no fees whatsoever. Vinted make their money from ads within the app. That's their model. I've no doubt that eventually they will charge fees because they're the new kid on the block. They're trying to basically match Depop, and so one of the main selling points they've got is you keep all the money you make. Long may that continue because it's great for us as sellers. But it is a genuinely brilliant place to sell clothes. Moreover, it's a brilliant place to buy clothes, and if you are a reseller, you can buy off Vinted and sell on Depop for more money. I think a lot of people don't realise Vinted is a thing. And some of the stuff that we buy, or I bought for myself off of Vinted, I know if I sold that on Depop, it'd be 2 or 3 times as expensive. So be mindful of that, because if you're looking to buy clothes, Vinted is a great place to buy. It's also a great place to sell if someone's looking for specific stuff. But because it's like that, you do get massive undercuts. Now I wanted to show you sort of layouts of both of our sites, of our shops over there. So this is Depop. This is our store over on Depop. Relatively easy. We've got 12,000 followers now. And basically, this is what it looks like. And Depop looks cool. In my opinion, it's got a better look to it, a better vibe to it. It is the more, I guess, refined, polished site. It is without a doubt more polished than Vinted. But in my opinion, you're paying for that. When you go on Depop, you're paying fees. You're paying for the fact that it's on the biggest site. It's polished. They've spent money on it. There's stuff in place to protect buyers and sellers. And so that's what you're paying for across Depop. With Vinted, it's a bit more basic looking. If I'm being entirely honest, it's a bit more basic looking. It hasn't quite got the pizzazz, I guess, that Depop has. Do I think that really cares though? In all honesty, no. I'm not going to lie to you, it doesn't. The reason why I like Vinted is the simplicity of the use. Like, you just type it in, off you go, you find it. It's really simple to list. It's really simple to do anything on. The big problem between the two, though, Depop is far easier to rearrange your store. On Vinted, you list it up and it just stays where it is. Whereas on Depop, if I want to go rearrange, for example, if I go to here, if I go to the top, I can click rearrange, and I can just move stuff like that and basically put stuff together, so polo shirts together, t-shirts together, all that sort of stuff. However, the but side to that is, with Depop, we find that stuff sits for a lot longer. It sits a lot longer. People are more specific about what they want. You get 15 million questions about an item. It might be a £10 item, you still get 1,000,001 questions. Whereas Vinted is, in my opinion, genuinely people just go, I like that top, I'm going to buy it. Stuff we sell, we always sell it perfect. If there's any flaws, we say there's flaws on this, you haven't got to worry. But Depop stuff sits longer. And so that's why we've cross-posted and cross-sold across both of them, purely because it's a better way to do it. You want everything listed. If you're buying clothes and they're sitting there, they're not making you money. The analogy I'll give you with that is when EasyJet fly, their CEO basically says that every minute the plane's on the ground, it's not making them money. And so basically every minute that their clothes aren't listed or not for us, they're not making us money. And that's the point. We've taken ourselves from what I would say is a start-up vintage business now to sort of that small/medium-sized business. We're getting consistent sales quite often. 173 sales on Fuzzy, but we now sell to people who ask us to buy specific items for them that follow the channel or follow the socials and stuff like that. We sell on groups now. If we pick up a high-value item, we sell on groups a lot easier now because we've got a name for ourselves. And bit by bit we're picking up. But I want to give you an example of the sort of way that I define how you sell and what you sell on each page. So this Adidas top, for example, just standard Adidas hoodie. It's a nice hoodie, really, really nice hoodie. This is a sort of item that sells very well on Vinted. People look for things like these Adidas hoodies and Nike t-shirts and stuff like that. And these are the things that we pick up from car boot sales for £2-3 maximum. We sell them for £10-15 on resale, basically. Sometimes a bit more depending on the item. The sort of stuff that tends to sell better on Depop is the out of the ordinary stuff that sort of sits there for a bit longer. So this amazing Nike Air jumper, I literally love this thing. It's gorgeous. This is the sort of stuff that tends to sell better on Depop. It will sit there for a while, but it will sell for the 40-50 quid you're looking for to the right buyer once they come along. And then similar to that, the higher end stuff like this YSL jumper, we've bought 3 of these recently. This stuff tends to sell better on Depop as well. Vinted isn't really the place for this. There are exceptions to that, and I'll explain in a minute. But yeah, this is a sort of stuff that I'd expect to sell on Depop rather than Vinted. The reason for that is Vinted, you do get a lot of lowball offers. So we might list something for 30 quid and it's worth 30 quid. We tend to underlist our stuff. Anyone that's bought from us knows our pricing tends to be very fair. We're not looking to be millionaires from this, just basically to be able to afford to pay our bills and support ourselves. The Vinted side of things, they will lowball you. So you say 30 quid and they'll be like, will you take a fiver? And it's like, well, obviously not. I'm not going to take a fiver for it. And sometimes you get people that might get a little bit angry because you're refusing to sell it cheaper. I think sometimes people don't realise, the audience on Vinted, I think, is just, they look at the brand, they might not necessarily realise that the top is vintage or it's worth more than they want to pick it up for. They just look at the brand and think, well, I see Nike t-shirts for £10 all the time, and don't realise a Nike t-shirt you've got from the 1980s and it's worth 30-40 quid. So that sort of thing is what you have to be mindful of with Vinted, without a doubt. The but to that is, we've recently been buying from Handpick. Shout out BK's Vintage in Crawley, which we started to use. Very, very good. And basically, we pick up a lot of our stuff. So like the YSL stuff here, we picked up from them. But we picked up what we call rags, UK rags. They have bags. I can't bother to get up right now, but they've got bags called UK rags. And it's just a bag full of clothes. And they weigh it out and you buy it based upon that. And you sort of look in the bag a little bit. But it's basically like a lucky dip. But their stuff's very, very good. And within those bags, it's very hard to make a loss on. But the last one we had contained a Louis Vuitton scarf. And we had it checked out and it was legit. It's a Louis Vuitton silk scarf. And we sold that on Vinted. I did not expect to sell it on Vinted. I expected to sell it on Depop, without a doubt. But it ended up going on Vinted in the end. And we sold it for £50. Now, the whole bag cost us 110, I think. It came with like 30 things in it in the end. We made a lot of money out of that bag, basically. And it's a really, really good way to make money. This is all the listings. I'm trying to see if I can find the sold stuff, but I can't remember. It doesn't seem to come up at the moment. But yeah, the Louis Vuitton scarf sold on Vinted, and I didn't expect that to happen. And that's why it's important to do the both sides of it, because if you're only doing one side and only listing on Depop and then listing the cheaper stuff on Vinted, you're missing out. Because sometimes on Vinted you will sell a higher value item, sometimes on Depop you will sell a lower value item. There's one big problem with Vinted though, one huge problem. You have to be very hot on your listings. On Vinted, if you cancel an order, it is an automatic, I think it's 1-star review, no matter what happens. Whether it's your fault or not, you get a 1-star review. So we had a hoodie, and we sold it on there. And before sending it, I noticed there was a mark on the sleeve, and now I'm never just going to send that to a buyer. I'd always give the buyer the option to take a refund for it, or to have the money reduced on it, because we're not about that. I'd rather lose that money than screw over people buying our clothes. And basically, we messaged the buyer to ask them what they wanted to do, and they didn't get back to us, so we had to cancel. I wasn't going to let him leave his money sat in our PayPal for ages, and then you get given an automatic 1 star. Now, is that the end of the world? No. But it is frustrating, because by doing the right thing and making sure the buyer doesn't get screwed over, you get screwed over yourself. And so, to me, I'm not a massive fan of that. There's something they need to work on, because there are genuine errors that happen. Whether you're a buyer or a seller, there are genuine errors that happen. It's not fair that you're just sort of like, here's your 1 star review. I think that needs to be looked at. But a couple of other good things about Vinted. If someone likes your item, it's called favoriting on Vinted. If someone favorites your item, you can send them an offer. So let's say you've got a top on there. For example, let's say... Wrong one, that's my FIFA. So let's say we've got these Weekend Offender polos here, for example, at a tenner. If someone favourites them, we can send them an offer for £9, £8. And sometimes you do get bites of people buying them for that. They might go, okay, cool, yeah, I'll buy it then. So you can send them an offer. They can also send you offers. So let's say it's listed for £10, they can send me an offer of 8. I can decline that and send back 9. And it's really, really good. I really like that as a way of doing things. And on the messages on Vinted, you can see if they've been read. It comes up with a tick when they've been read. So if you're selling to a buyer and they've asked you for a price and you say, yeah, accept it and send it to them, and they leave it read for 3 days, you know they're probably wasting your time and they're not going to buy it. So you know to then send it to someone else if they ask about the item. And so that's really, really cool. Something that I think Depop could definitely put in place for them. What I like most here is Vinted are giving Depop a genuine rival. It's a different site. It's a rival to Depop. And usually when it happens, when competition happens, it's a good thing for those of you using the service. It's a really good thing, because it tends to mean they've got to step up their game and offer more as sites and apps to try and keep you from the other one. And if you utilise both, it's perfect. If you only utilise one, then it will give you some form of benefit. Vinted is a genuine alternative, and it's also perfect to sell stuff alongside the stuff you'd sell on Depop. So I would suggest, if you're buying or selling, use Vinted alongside Depop and eBay, obviously, because it's a very good place to buy and sell your clothes. But that's the video. That is what you should be doing right now with Vinted and Depop. There will be loads and loads of videos coming out as we grow and continue to do what we're doing. It has just been so hectic recently. I've launched another new business to do with the FIFA football side of things, so that's just taking off really quickly, so we've got to keep an eye on that. But the content is back. It will be back continually. If you're new around here, make sure you subscribe. Any questions, comment down below. And don't forget, check out our stores on Depop and Vinted. If you mention this, if you mention my YouTube channels, anything like that, you'll get 10% off. And don't forget, you're always welcome to haggle, because we don't mind a haggle. It's always good fun. It's part of the fun of this. But for now, I am out. Peace out. I'll speak to you soon.